So what if a single tiny online post could literally cost your company millions? That's not some crazy hypothetical. It's the reality of a social media crisis. Today, we're going to break down exactly how you can manage that firestorm because in this digital age, honestly, being unprepared just isn't an option. 10 million euros. That's not a company's revenue. Nope. That's the estimated loss from a single social media meltdown. This shows you we're not just talking about a few angry comments. This is a direct, massive hit to the bottom line. And yeah, we'll get to the wild story behind this number in just a bit, but it proves just how high the stakes really are. And that kind of financial risk is even possible because social media is a true double-edged sword, right? It has the power to build a brand seemingly overnight, but it can also tear one down with absolutely terrifying speed. The potential is massive, and so is the peril. And here you can really see the two sides of that coin. On one hand, you've got these incredible tools to drive sales, support your customers, and build real trust. But flip it over, and those exact same channels can ignite these negative conversations that lead directly to reputational damage, financial hits, and even boycotts. So, how do you tell the difference between a few unhappy customers and a full-blown meltdown? It's a really critical distinction to make. Let's get into it and dissect what a real social media crisis actually looks like. Yeah, a crisis isn't just a handful of bad reviews. It's a fundamental negative shift in the entire online conversation. We're talking about a sudden tidal wave of negativity that threatens the very core of your brand's reputation. It's big. Hey, remember that 10 million euro figure from the beginning? Well, this is it. The Pandora Gate scandal. It all started with an influencer's charity campaign that just exploded into accusations of fraud, costing her companies a fortune. It is a perfect and kind of scary example of how even a campaign that seems to have good intentions can go horribly wrong. And it's not always just about the money either. Cultural missteps can have these devastating long-term consequences. Just take a look at Dolce & Gabbana's 2018 campaign, which was widely condemned as racist. The result wasn't just some temporary backlash. It was a lasting sales drop in a huge market, and it was all made worse by an apology that, frankly, a lot of people felt missed the mark entirely. And sometimes the crisis comes from inside the house, when a brand's actions just don't match its words. Annabelle Jewels built its reputation on these progressive values, even celebrating the hiring of a pregnant employee. But then, when that same employee's contract wasn't renewed after maternity leave, well, the public saw a massive contradiction. That gap between their story and their reality is what ignited the firestorm. Okay, these examples are pretty jarring, and they all beg the question, could they have been stopped? And the answer is, often, yeah. The best defense is a good offense, and that means spotting the warning signs before the whole situation explodes. So, I want you to think about your own brand for a second. Right now, could you see a crisis coming? Knowing what to look for isn't just good practice, it's literally your first line of defense. These are the red flags you absolutely need to be watching for. First, look at the conversation itself. Are you seeing a sudden spike in negative mentions, or maybe a negative hashtag starting to trend? Then, you gotta watch the key players. Are any influencers calling for a boycott? Is the media picking up on something negative? And finally, look internally. Are any company conflicts spilling out into the open? Any one of these is a serious, serious warning sign. Okay, so you know the risks, you've spotted the warning signs. Now what? You don't improvise, you execute a playbook. So let's walk through the 3-phase action plan that will guide you right through the chaos. The best way to think about it is in 3 distinct phases. First up, you've got the pre-crisis phase. This is all your prep work. Then there's the crisis response. This is what you do in the heat of the storm. And finally, you have the post-crisis phase. That's where you recover and rebuild. This quote really says it all for phase 1. Your best work happens before any crisis hits. We're not just talking about writing a press release. We're talking about building an ark before the flood. You need a plan, a dedicated team, and your eyes peeled for those warning signs. Because when the storm hits, believe me, it is way too late to start building. All right, now for phase 2, the crisis hits. Your number 1 priority? Speed. Check this out. 75% of people expect a response within 24 hours for just a normal complaint. In a crisis, that window shrinks dramatically. The second it starts, the clock is ticking, and it's ticking fast. And your response has got to be 4 things. It has to be timely,
because that clock is ticking. It's got to be transparent. Don't try to hide the facts. You need to be empathetic, show you actually understand the impact this has had. And finally, it has to be aligned with your brand voice. It has to sound like it's coming from you, not some corporate robot.
So the fire is out, the storm has passed, and it feels like it's over. But I'm going to be honest, the hardest part is just beginning. This is phase 3, the slow, deliberate work of rebuilding everything that was broken. And this is where your actions become everything. I mean, after facing these horrific accusations, Balenciaga didn't just issue a statement. They took a concrete, corrective step by partnering with the National Children's Alliance. This is what moving forward really looks like, not just saying you'll do better, but actively doing it. And you've got a few different tools in your rebuilding toolkit. For things like product failures, compensation is absolutely key. To reinforce your values once things have calmed down a bit, you can re-engage with influencers. And for any crisis that involves offensive content or leadership mistakes, a sincere, no excuses apology is just non-negotiable. So let me leave you with this final thought. We tend to see a crisis as a disaster, right? But what if it's an opportunity? A chance to strip everything away and show the world what your brand is really made of. If you handle it right, you can come out of it not just intact, but with even more trust than you had before. Look, a crisis is coming for many brands out there. The question isn't if, it's when. And when it arrives, it will be a defining moment. So the only question left is, how will it define you?